Arsenal want a centre-back. They've made no secret of that since the injury to William Saliba. And now Jeroen Quansa has become an option. Leverkusen don't want to sell. Liverpool, when they sold him, had this buyback clause of 70 million euros, but it's expired. Doesn't really inform the valuation. Arsenal's perspective here is essentially Quansah might be cheaper than Jeroen Quansa. Still, if they can get the Aston Villa defender, it appears to be the preferred option. And yet it's all about the money, because Arsenal's valuation of Quansah at Villa has been only around £30 million. Some sources say they could go up to 40, and yet Villa wants 60 plus. Quansah's cheaper, and with time running out in the window, Arsenal have generated themselves more than one option and a bit of leverage. And now let's see whether they make that bid to Leverkusen to try and get the more economical option, and Quansah would be keen on the move, or if they take that possibility back to Aston Villa and see if they can drive down the asking price for Quansah. And it's another example, as I think we said yesterday, of when you're trying to do a deal, Premier League, bringing in a player from outside, it's one number and valuation, but when you're dealing in Premier League to Premier League, more evidence that we're in a very inflated market.
Breaking news. We know that Arsenal are on the lookout for a centre-back. Well, it looks like they're in talks to try and sign one, and not a player that we've been previously linked with. This one's a bit of a surprise. It's Sky who broke this exclusively, Gary Cottrell and Dharma Chef, and they say that Arsenal are in talks with Bayer Leverkusen over a possible deal for England defender Jeroen Quansa. Mikel Arteta is keen to add on his defensive options and sees Quansah as a good addition with his versatility at both centre-back and right-back positions. And then they go on to say that Quansah's returned to Leverkusen after an extended break following his debut World Cup, in which he made 3 appearances for England. Remember, he famously got sent off in one of those games. He made 44 appearances in his first season in Germany, having made a tough decision to leave his boyhood club, Liverpool. It's thought that Leverkusen don't want to sell, having been impressed with the 23-year-old performances in the Bundesliga and his mature attitude adapting to his environment. And then they also go on to say that it's likely that Arsenal would need to pay considerably more than the £30 million that the German club paid for Quansah just last July to prize him away from the German side, as he still has 4 years remaining on his contract. So that's big news, this one. Quansah, of course, as I just said, he played for England in the World Cup, did really well. He is very versatile, can play as a centre-back, can also play as a right-back. And I think quite key to this, has played in the Premier League for Liverpool. So he knows the Premier League, even though he was quite a young player when he was playing in the Premier League, and it was sort of his breakthrough time, but he's played in the Premier League. And I think Mikel Arteta is looking for players, whether it be Quansah or now Quansah, right? He's keen on players that can just come in and what we call plug and play, be ready to go straight away. And of course, the problem is twofold. William Saliba is going to be out for a long time. He's got this back problem. They don't want to rush him back. They want him to get like full rehabilitation. So they need to bring in a backup for that centre-back position. And then also, there's problems at right-back as well. Jeroen Timber, injury problems, out as well. When Mikel Arteta was asked the other day, when will Jeroen Timber be returning? He just said several weeks. He didn't put a timeline on it, which weren't great. Again, another player is going to need full rehabilitation off of his groin injury before he comes back into play. And then you've got Ben White, who's also been injury prone. And Mosquera can cover on that right-hand side, but not really a right back. We saw the sort of error he made in the final of the Champions League when we gave away that penalty. Not really suited to that position. Quansah can play right back, can play centre back, is a right-sided centre back as well, and would fit the bill perfectly. But as they said in this Sky report, how much will he be? He will not be cheap. They paid £30 million from Leverkusen, and as they said, he was excellent for them last season. I thought that when he was at Liverpool, he was okay. You know, I mean, you could see good young player coming through. But when he went away to Germany and was then able to play week in, week out, he really was a standout player for Leverkusen and earned his spot in that England team. And it's no mean feat when you go abroad and you're playing, you know, and you're kind of out of sight of the England manager and that, to then still the manager look at you from abroad and say, nah, look at this guy's performing week in, week out. I'm going to bring him into the England squad. That shows you how well he played. It'd be an interesting one to see how Liverpool fans would react if he did come back to Arsenal, especially since they were looking for a centre-back replacement themselves. But listen, I guess they sold him on. £30 million he went for, still a very young player. And I think the key to this would be as well that he's still young, he's still emerging. He'd be playing for the champions, he'd be playing in the Champions League. And he'll kind of, without being disrespectful to him, he's going to know his position. He's going to know that when Saliba comes back, I'm number 2 to Saliba. When Timber comes back, I'm number 2 to Timber. But I'm also a top player that I can be in that team at any time. And that is the type of player that Arsenal would like to sign in for that position. We know that they've been looking at other players in that position as well. Quansah, Esri Quansah.
Victor Osimhen has been linked to Spurs, to Arsenal, to a number of other clubs. What are the chances, you think, of him leaving Galatasaray in this window?
I think there's a fair chance at the end of this that Victor Osimhen actually stays, even though the Tottenham links are part of their wider search for a forward, and yet my info there is Cody Gakpo and Savinho for Spurs, if they can possibly pull those two off. Wage is still a bit of an issue with Victor Osimhen, even though Tottenham are showing they're prepared to break their wage structure. So yes, Tottenham want a 9, but nothing advanced yet with Victor Osimhen. And yet for Arsenal, because Galatasaray want Gabriel Martinelli and have been speaking about Ethan Nwaneri, Victor Osimhen has come up. And I think that's normal as part of a very early stage negotiation. But the challenge again is what Victor Osimhen wants in terms of wage and bonuses, agent commissions. And if reports are to be believed, Galatasaray have already turned a very lucrative bid, far more than Arsenal would be prepared to pay from Al Hilal. So I sense there's a bit of games here. And then regarding Martinelli, Galatasaray basically want either Rafa Leao or Gabriel Martinelli. And as we revealed on TalkSport on Sunday, there was an approach to Arsenal from Galatasaray. Since then, there's been a bid of 45 million euros at the time we're live. That's not been answered. And some of the reason why is Martinelli will need a lot of convincing to go to Turkey. The same for Ethan Nwaneri as well. So a lot of bluster and, in theory, some mutually beneficial business. But the practical realities of the cost of Osimhen, coupled with the fact that both those Arsenal players need to change their position on Turkey, means that actually nothing might happen regarding any of these players.